I know we all can agree that change is our new normal. From our daily routines to the way we work, the pandemic has completely overturned life as we know it. The business landscape is no exception. As we navigate the new regulations and restrictions in this changing business landscape, we encounter challenges and questions ahead of us. Should we consider downsizing to help the business survive? Do we need to restructure the company to keep moving forward? Or do we choose the last resort, closing the business to build anew? Now, for today, we'll be getting answers to all of those burning questions and much, much more. Welcome to Resize, Reshape, or Retire, the mutation of SMEs during a pandemic. The first academic webinar forum brought to you by the partnership of Rise PH and AIMME. Let's learn insights from esteemed professor and leading expert in quality management. We have our guest speaker, Professor Rene T. Domingo. He received his Master's of Science in Management Engineering from Nagoya Institute of Technology in Japan, and graduated magna cum laude along with a degree of Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering from the University of the Philippines. An associate professor at the Asian Institute of Management, his area of expertise revolves around total quality management, lean management, service operations, and health management. An accomplished author, Professor Domingo shares his extensive knowledge by writing books and articles on quality and service management. Beyond the academe, he is an international consultant and trainer for major local and Asian firms, including banks and hospitals, wherein he was consulted by the World Health Organization on hospital management and systems. He has also been awarded the Productivity Excellence Award in Education and Promotion, Asian Productivity Organization, or the APO, Society of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Professor Rene T. Domingo. Good afternoon, Prof.
Good afternoon, Pao. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Prof. So I understand that you prepared a short message before we get the ball rolling with all of these questions that have come in during this pandemic. We want to find out how we can figure out these different obstacles that are in our way. Do we resize? Is this mutation real? How do we go about this? But I do believe, Prof, that you prepared something for us. So anytime you're ready, take it away.
Sure. Let me just share. Okay. So thank you, Paolo, for this opportunity to be with your group, Rise. So let me just share something about my work. I'm not really new to helping people in survival. In fact, my first two books were about survival. So the first one I wrote is Quality Means Survival to help companies fight the Japanese. We're very good in quality, the made in Japan quality. So many industries were being taken over by Japanese companies in the 70s, 80s. So I gave some ideas how to deal with this competition. My second book was more on how companies survived the Asian financial crisis in 1997. But I focused more on the Indonesian experience because I saw a lot of great Indonesian companies there that were able to turn around. Not only big companies, but SMEs, which we will talk about today. Of course, you know what will be my third book. Okay, so after this pandemic, I will look for survivors. Hopefully, write about their survival strategy. Okay, so a few words about our topic on mutation. I like the word mutate because it means to survive or to evolve, to pivot. Right? So basically, I equate this with survival. The reason you mutate is to live, to thrive. Okay, and I'm going to show you two examples before we start with our Q&A. And we find a lot of examples in the animal world, and one closer to home is when in history, when Charles Darwin visited the Galapagos Island, he noticed 13 islands, and he also noticed that every island has different weather, different soil. So the finch, he saw 10 kinds of finch, almost one per island. And the finch develop beaks, okay, to suit the soil, the seeds. Okay, if it's hard seeds, develop tough beaks. If it's insect, look at this bird. He developed tools, how to use the tools. So you're able to adapt, okay, to survive. Of course, interestingly, they did not need the dole out from Ecuador or financial aid, and they don't need the help of environmentalists or conservationists to to survive. They just evolved to survive. Otherwise, they will die because they cannot fly to the mainland. It's too far from South America. Another example close to home is this is pivot on the short term. I'm sure many of you have been to Nara. Okay, if you notice the deer there, they become accustomed to eating cookies. Deer are not cookie eating animals; they're grass fed, right? But because so many tourists, they pivot. They know how to run after tourists. They know how to take pictures with them, right? Yeah. And what's interesting, they know where to wait near the vendor of the cookie, right? So when the tourists buy a cookie, they already approach the tourists. Now what happened in Japan? Now there are no more tourists in Nara, right? So this vendor will be jobless, right? It's no more shop. He will probably get dole out from Japanese companies, Japanese government. But the deer will survive. You know what he will do? He will just pivot and go back to the park and start eating grass again, right? So this is the way we survive. We don't complain. We don't seek help. We adapt to the changing environment. Very, very agile. Okay. So basically, that is my introduction to our hopefully interesting forum. So I believe, Pao, you have some interesting questions for me about our topic today.
Indeed, we do, Prof. So thank you so much for setting the tone for today's very, very jam-packed discussion. Now, Prof, we asked those that registered early to send in their questions, and basically we broke it down into these categories: environment, market behavior, pivot, employees, and as well as cost and price. So, Prof, let's start with environment. You mentioned a while ago you've written many, many books and articles on survival, right? Now, how does this change in the business environment compared with, say, other major upheavals in the past several decades? Let's say the Asian financial crisis and the two world wars.
Well, there are differences and similarities. First, the difference. This is different from the financial crisis because this pandemic, we don't know the end, right? Financial crisis is a cycle. It's like a natural disaster, earthquakes, tsunami, volcanic eruption, recession. They have cycles. There's an end. So you just wait for the old normal to come back. But this pandemic combined economic crisis, it's like a war. It's like World War I, World War II. That lasts, you don't know where it will end. It has a beginning, but you don't know where it will end. So you have to plan without an end. Right? You cannot force an end. It's like playing chess. You don't know where it will end, middle, beginning, or end game, right? So we cannot have it. So the other difference is this crisis affected all markets. Unlike a volcanic eruption, it just affected Calabarzon, right? Okay, something like that. It's very localized, or a typhoon. But this pandemic is worldwide. It affected all sectors, all markets, A, B, C, D, the rich and the poor. Okay, those in the province, rural area, urban. So we have to map a different strategy for these kinds of disaster. Okay, so that's my take on this. It's very different. We have to plan differently. Okay, we have to plan differently.
Looking at history, Prof, how long does it take really for the world economy to recover based on, say, for example, the last pandemic that people experienced?
Okay, the last pandemic was very interesting. The 1918 Spanish flu, because it was concurrent with World War I, right? So
yes.
You're fighting two wars, the virus and the enemy. Okay? So this war, just like most wars, like World War I, a war would last 4 years. Huh? And then after the war, it's not back to the same old business. You have post-war reconstruction, okay, which would last another 2 years. So give or take 6 years. Okay. Now what happens after post-war? The economy is totally different. This is what will happen in the post-pandemic new normal. It's not going to be the old economy. So we cannot plan to go back to the old economy. So all business models will have to be reimagined because the market would have changed.
And what we used to call disruptors in various industries before, even they have to rethink their business models.
Yes, because our concept of disruption in pre-pandemic was more of technology driven, okay?
Yes.
Internet, data science, all these things, okay? But this is total, right? It's invisible. It affected all economies. You cannot move to another economy. All economies are affected. all blue ocean, no more blue ocean. Right? They're all
It's all red.
infected. They're all infected. Okay,
Right.
they're all infected. Where will you go? Huh? Okay, well, probably Antarctica, as they say, right? Or Galapagos.
But Prof, if we talk about, say, for example, market behavior, nowadays, what do you see as the spending habits of people? Is the money still there? Or are people holding it in, saving for a rainy day? Or are people still willing to spend at this point in time?
Well, they're very cautious because of uncertainty, right? Those who have money will keep their money. They will suspend the impulse buying. You know, in retail, more than half of retail sales is impulse buying. Okay, so forget about impulse buying for the next 2 or 4 years. You just depend on impulse buying. The other half of the population, they have no problem because they have no money. Okay, they have nothing to risk. They've lost their jobs, pay cuts. So that's gonna be a big problem. You will lose that part of the economy. Okay? So later on, you may probably talk about reimagining your business model. There are people who are holding on their money. They're not poor; they have money to spend, but they're keeping it. Now, how do you take it from them? In a very nice way. You have to offer them innovative products.
And targeting what people value nowadays.
Yeah.
And what is that, Prof? What do you think is it that people
Value,
value?
you know, value is complex. Let me tell you maybe 4 or 5 values. Okay. One is safety. Obviously, safety, right? They want protected because of lack of vaccine, and a lot of people are asymptomatic. First is safety, my personal safety, my family safety. So your product must include these features. Secondly is convenience and speed. They don't want to go out in the streets just to buy something and spend their time. They want convenience because they want to return to their house. Right?
Yes, immediately. Yes.
You don't want to linger, loiter, just like we did before in the pre-pandemic times, right? You have all the time in the world to window shop, okay, to look around. Okay, no more time. They want to buy something essential and return. So convenience will be the key, right?
Okay.
Protection and convenience. Lastly is essentials, okay? Frugality, because of the certainty of income, okay? Your payroll, you don't know whether you get the next pay. People will only buy the basic necessities, okay? So never mind the branded, the luxurious item, that will be postponed, even probably for the rich. Even for the rich.
Now, do you see, Prof, that there are emerging new metrics that entrepreneurs should focus on that, say, before the pandemic, were not as important before this particular situation we're in?
Yeah, unfortunately, this metric that I will talk about wasn't the metric before. So you cannot use this metric now because you don't have it, unfortunately. What is it? It's called customer relationship. In the pre-pandemic, you keep selling to anonymous people, not getting their names. You don't care about them. It's just top line, right? If you go to a restaurant, they don't take your name except if you use credit card, right? It's all anonymous. You go to a drugstore, you're anonymous. So everybody's just looking for market share. Now in the pandemic, post-pandemic, you need relationship because you have to contact them. You to come back, to order online. How can they order online? You don't know them. They don't know you.
Yes.
And they cannot go to your shop. So that's the metric now. How many people do you know in the pre-pandemic times that you can market to now? Because if you don't have that list, nobody's going to walk to your shop or call you anonymously. Cold call. You cannot cold call people. You cannot cold call people if you don't know them. They'll just hang up on you.
Customer
That's the most
relationship.
important metric. Okay? The other one is, I told you, time, right?
Yes.
End to end. How fast can you provide value?
Right.
Not just the value, the speed of delivering value. So value for money includes speed, right? Not just quality.
Right.
If you have quality but no speed, you won't get the business because they won't take their time, looking at your product and examining. Yeah.
You mentioned a while ago, Prof, that luxury brands will have to wait. They will still be purchased in the future, but not now. Do you see that people are removing brand from their minds? That brand doesn't matter so much as something being more essential than being something that is of, say, for status or for how things were before when we talked about certain brands?
Well, on two counts, right? What brand will become less relevant, at least during this, what I would consider crisis period of 4 to 6 years. Okay, on a lighter note, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't go out anymore, so nobody cares about what shoes you wear, what what pants. Even in Zoom, you don't know whether who's wearing pants or not, right? So you
I'm
don't
wearing
care what
pants.
you wear pants, right? So we don't know the brand of your belt. Who cares about the brand of your shoes? Is it Payless or made in Italy? I don't care. Huh? Huh?
Right, right,
I can wear slippers, but you can wear Italian shoes. It doesn't care. It don't care. Okay,
right.
2 meter distancing, right? Can I
Mm,
smell your perfume? I don't care. I cannot smell perfume at 2 meters. I cannot
mm,
even see how many carats your jewelry. Are you wearing a Rolex watch or a Casio? Huh?
mm,
That's on a lighter note. Okay, on a more serious note, right? We want convenience. We want speed. Imagine the jobless are selling online all sorts of food, and people
yes,
buy this food, and these
yes,
are all brandless. Huh?
right.
But because they are tasty, it's convenient. You order these kinds of food because it's convenient. So this will go along. You cannot sell online food based on brand. Huh? The generics, the housewife who lost her job,
Yes,
can
yes,
get the business easily. So this
yes.
is the time for SMEs to excel because SMEs don't have brands,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
But you can offer value with speed and convenience.
Mhm.
That's my take on this question.
Is there a connection with that and say the current unstable supply chain from say suppliers? That's why people are more willing to just go for brandless.
Yes, yes, of course. If there is scarcity, right? If there's scarcity, you go for what's available.
Mhm.
But of course, again, is it safe? You cannot just offer food that's available that is unsafe. So
Yes.
safety first before availability. Okay,
Mm.
safety first before availability. As we run out of imported goods because people are factories in the world have shut down, so we cannot import and we cannot export. So you will see
Mm.
disruption in raw material supply. Okay, which goes
Mm.
into a lot of generic and even branded goods. So,
Mm.
but people would look for value for money.
Right.
The assumption for value for money: one, is it safe? Secondly, is it available? Of
Mhm.
course, thirdly, is it affordable? Okay, so
Yes.
you have to
Yes.
meet all these three.
Mhm.
All
So,
these three.
Prof, I read somewhere, and I want to know: do you find this to be myth or fact that excess cash exists?
Yes, yes. It's not myth. It's real. It's real. Without lockdown, we should have spent all money in the shopping mall. Now you
Mm.
cannot go to the shopping mall. So where's that cash? You keep
Mm.
earning, so you have excess cash. Okay?
Mhm. Mhm.
So half of the population, probably the middle class, who have been to the malls, have been accumulating cash. Okay?
Mhm.
So that is excess. The problem is, will it be for spending or for rainy
Yes.
days?
Or
Is
are
that
they
for
willing?
savings? Yes.
Right. Or are they willing to let it go?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly. That's where you mutate. How do you mutate to get those money? Those
Mm.
so-called excess. It's not
Mm.
our excess. It is unspent money.
Yes. Yes.
Those are shopping money. huh? Those are
Yes.
shopping money that we used to spend after payday. Most people lose their pay overnight.
Mm.
They go out shopping. Now you cannot do that.
So basically, Prof, the images people are holding onto their money, and the SMEs, the entrepreneurs, they have to find a way to convince them to slowly release that tight
Yes,
grip on
yes,
their funds for
yes,
something that is worth paying for, both health
yes.
wise, safety wise,
Exactly,
convenience
exactly.
wise, and again, value for money that we're
Yeah,
talking about.
they have funds. They have funds. They have
Okay.
not just the rich, even the middle class have funds.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about pivoting and how this pandemic just really blindsided everyone. I mean, we knew that it was coming. A lot of us didn't know it would be this big, this major, that it would affect the entire world. We thought that we would be able to isolate it in just one province, but we didn't. When I say we, I mean the entire world. Now, so there are fears, Prof, that even if a vaccine is found for COVID-19, the threat of a global pandemic breaking out at any time will remain high. Do you think these fears are warranted? And should we, as entrepreneurs, really have this business continuity processes rather, in place as we're rebuilding our businesses, thinking that another pandemic can happen at any time?
The best position, I believe, or the best attitude now, I believe, is to be a pessimist, right? Why? Because to be a pessimist means you will prepare, you will take action. What is a pessimist? One who believes that the vaccine will not be discovered soon, right? And the
Yes.
economy will not recover soon. So you build on that assumption. You build your business, fortify your business, pivot. Okay. Don't assume that next year or January the economy will recover, and the vaccine will be discovered. That is so what I call hopelessly romantic, right? Attitude. Okay. Try to be pessimistic. Build up your business so in case the good scenario happens, you're ahead, right? But if you're optimistic, you do nothing and wait, and then suddenly it turns out for the worst. You're unprepared.
Yes.
You cannot stand up again.
So if I was an entrepreneur and I wanted to start a new business, what kind of products or services should I come up with that may enable our society to better cope with this particular situation?
Well, that's a $64,000 question, Paulo. Huh? I'm not supposed to answer. I'm supposed to ask questions. Anyway, I'm not a seer. I don't predict these things. Anyway, just to help people in innovation, because this is the area of innovation, right? Okay, I cannot tell you what product. Even Steve Jobs doesn't know how to call a smartphone, huh? But he knows there's a need for this, right?
Yes.
So we cannot even think of a product. We think of needs. We think of needs, right? So think of needs. Okay. So let me give you a good example. Needs are discovered from pain points, or what I call in this pandemic fear points, because we fear a lot of things. Huh? Okay, what are the new products that you can possibly think about? Okay, one is you need safety. I mentioned that. We need protection.
Yes.
But it is so painful to get protected. You wear the mask, you have to wash your hands several times. We don't really need this. We need protection, not soap, not mask. So find a product that can give protection without these hassles, of wearing this PPE that's very, very hot, right?
Yes.
So because we're using the traditional, those are for doctors. Those are not for civilians.
Yes.
Right? Civilians cannot suffer through this, but doctors can withstand these kinds of apparel, right? Okay, you wear it. They can wear that 24 hours. The other one is distancing. Have you ever walked with somebody 2 meters apart? That's very awkward.
Yes.
So stressful. But that's required by law. Huh? That's required by law. So how can you have 2 distance and still enjoy company? Huh? Why not gamify this so-called social distancing? Huh? It's too stressful. Huh? It's too stressful.
Yes, and there's something, Prof, that they're calling caution exhaustion. People are getting tired of being too careful.
You lose vigilance. Lose vigilance. And then you go back to 1 feet away, right? 1 feet away. Huh?
And that's where the danger is, because the virus doesn't really care. I mean, once it sees an opening, it's going to come in, and we're going to have to pay the price for that.
Products that can enforce social distancing in a very nice way, in a very pleasant way, without putting barricades, all this plastic, barbed wire. Some bars have put electrified, barriers in some bars. I don't know where that is, US or Australia. It's so crude. It's so crude to enforce the social distancing.
And expensive also for businesses.
Exactly.
So, Prof, the past few weeks we saw in the news so many big companies abroad, also here in the Philippines, big companies that had to either shut down permanently or temporarily because of this business climate. I guess the question is, what hope really do smaller companies, do SMEs have to stay afloat? And at what point should they really decide to, and our theme for today is reshape, resize, or retire a business?
Okay, I can split that into 2 parts, right? One part is are you at a disadvantage compared to big companies, right? Secondly, when do you mutate? When do you pivot? Okay. So my first answer my answer to that first question is SMEs are more agile. They're smaller. They can move around. They can pivot faster than larger companies.
Mhm.
Remember, this is not the survival of the strongest. Huh? In a typhoon, the strongest tree breaks. Huh?
Mhm.
But the bamboo, which is very weak, very soft, survive. So it's the survival of the softest, of the most agile. And SMEs have that characteristic because you report to yourself. You own the business. You don't
Yes.
report to SEC. You don't report to shareholders, right? So
Yes.
you can change. You're like the deer in Nara. You can change easily. Huh? You're more agile. So be more optimistic about your size. Your size is your advantage.
Mhm.
Your smallness is your advantage because
Mhm.
you don't have creditors, big creditors. You're not highly leveraged. You have few employees. You can change direction very fast. That's the advantage. So that's the hope. Now, secondly, when do you do this? As I told you, you don't wait. You do it now. In fact, in my
Right.
earlier post, I told them sometime January, February, pivot now, pivot now. That was before the lockdown. I was
Yes.
warning all
Yes.
the SMEs, even before the lockdown. Why should you wait for a lockdown for this to become a pandemic? It wasn't a pandemic at that. It was still an epidemic
Yes.
in January, February. But I can already foresee this is going to be a global pandemic. So
Mhm.
that was the time to pivot, January, February. But you can still pivot now. Don't wait for October or August or when the vaccine will be developed.
Mhm. Mhm.
Don't
So,
waste precious time. Don't waste precious time.
so, Prof, we have a couple of questions here that are industry specific. I hope that's okay.
Sure, sure, sure.
We have one from our our batchmate Jonas Morales. Prof, what's your take on the construction industry?
My take, uh,
Mhm.
construction will continue, right? Because obviously there's budget for this, right? And what will differ is what kind of buildings or infrastructure will be constructed. What will give value? Huh?
Mhm.
Maybe more hospitals, more online businesses, right?
Mhm.
Like BPOs, right? Okay, in which you can operate online, more housing for workers.
Mhm.
Okay, but of course the bridges will still be there, the roads will be there, right? So it
Mhm.
will continue. It will not be as affected as the airline, okay,
Right.
as the food retail. Or tourism. Okay, construction will continue. Okay, but the
Will
format will change.
uh-huh. Uh so will homes and buildings be designed with the pandemic in mind?
Okay, so interesting question. I was thinking of the design now of condominium or housing. Right? Remember, in the traditional condominium, the toilets are just placed anywhere. Depends on the architect.
Yes.
Now with
Yes.
this pandemic, the toilet should be near the door, right? So you wash your hands, you take shower before you enter the house. So this will change the
Mm.
configuration. And then probably
Right.
you have a
Right.
room that can be an isolation unit.
Right.
That you can seal off. So you don't have to quarantine yourself in a hospital. You
Mhm.
quarantine yourself in the house. Huh? So
Mhm.
those are some of little things that you can think about. No? How do you make this thing pandemic proof? Huh?
Right.
Okay. So in terms of building design, housing design.
Mhm.
Okay.
Let's talk about sports equipment sellers naman. How can they pivot?
This is the problem with industry classification. They're not
Mhm.
in the sports industry. Huh? They're not selling barbells or this bicycle. They're in the health business. They're in the health industry. Huh?
Mm.
You do sports for health, not
Yes.
for entertainment. Right? It's really for health.
Yes.
Now, health is just the topic nowadays. How can they be irrelevant? How can you not know where to position yourself? Okay, and everybody is in the house. You have to stay fit in the house, so they
Mhm.
can sell this equipment for home use,
Mhm. Mhm.
not to
Eh,
the gyms because nobody goes to gym. So
right.
bundle this as a home fitness,
Right. Well,
home fitness.
in fact, nga, Prof, during this pandemic, several weeks into it, there was a surge in the sales online of various gym equipment that normally we'd
Exactly,
see on home TV shopping, and now
exactly.
people are just working
Yeah.
out at home. So the question now is, how about the gyms? What are they going to do with their large spaces and heavy equipment?
Okay. Oh, that's another $64,000 question, Paolo. Huh?
Yeah.
I think it's like airline. This is a turning point. Do you keep that business model? This is a big pivot
Mm.
because you cannot have social distancing in these kinds
Right.
of environment where you're all sweating, you're breathing hard, right? Okay, so it's
Mhm.
very hard. Even with social distancing, it's gonna be a very infectious place. So
Mhm.
you really have to protect it very well, or change configuration.
Mhm.
Or you need a wider area. In other words,
Mhm.
you need more real estate to run the gym with the same number of clients.
Right.
That will
Right.
increase the cost of doing business to comply
And,
with the health standards.
and part of your exercise with going from one machine to the other because it's so far, uh,
Yeah,
you, you're gonna get exhausted from just doing that.
exactly.
Actually, some gyms have resorted to renting out their equipment to homes for several months. So they have a 3-month contract. You can rent out a lat pull down machine or maybe a Smith machine. Um, so I don't know.
I have a suggestion on that. I just thought
Mm,
about it. Forget about we're not just focusing on the home.
mm,
Employees nowadays are being asked to stay at the workplace in their
yes,
office so that they
yes,
don't go home and get exposed. But they need exercise in the office. So you can sell that in the office, not to the house. Not to, sell it to
ah,
companies. So it's a corporate gym. Many corporations don't have gym.
right.
This is
They
the
have
time.
That's right. They have gym memberships
Yes,
that they get in bulk, but they
but
don't have
that's
gyms.
outside. That's
That's
outside.
right.
So do it,
So
put it inside the company because the workers are staying and living in the office, right? As a
right.
requirement.
So
Okay.
the BPOs can have
Yeah,
a health area in their.
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Google does this. Apple does this.
Right.
All
Yes,
those
they
tech
do.
companies, even without the pandemic,
Mm,
all
mm,
their offices have gyms, canteen, because the workers are the employees can be asked to stay overnight or
right.
doesn't matter.
And some BPOs now are requiring their employees and staff to actually stay overnight
Yeah,
and to just stay there.
it's not just a bed that they need or food. They need exercise. Right?
Mm. Also related to the pandemic, they have to up their immune system and
Exactly,
stay as
and you
healthy
need
as
a
they
healthy
can.
body. You need a healthy body.
Right. How about this? May be another $64,000 question. How about hotels, especially the big
You
hotels?
owe me a lot already,
I know,
Paulo.
I know, I know, Prof. Thank you so much. But how about the big hotels and the big resorts? Can they survive this pandemic? Do they just wait it out, or do
You
they
know
have to
what?
find? Go ahead, Prof.
Yeah, one rule in pivot is you forget about what industry you have. You look at the characteristic of your product and service. Okay, you have a building. It has electricity. It has piping. Right.
Mhm.
A hotel can easily be converted into an office, into a BPO. Think of that.
Okay,
Or
okay.
to a patient room. So you have to use your imagination. Move away from accommodation. It can be
Mhm.
converted to a working area, to a patient room. Well, I don't know the right answer, but go beyond, uh, giving a roof over the head of a tourist or traveler. This is the
Yeah.
old paradigm, because travelers are gone. Okay, but you can house anybody inside those rooms.
Do we say they're gone for now? Or do we say that tourism in general all over the world is really going to be affected for several years down the line?
This is very complex. You can be safe, right? Your country can be virus free,
Sure.
but the destinations are not. So you need two countries at least to be virus free to have tourism,
Right,
unless it is
right,
domestic tourism. If you talk about
right.
foreign tourism, it's very improbable to have 10 countries to be virus free.
Yes,
Probably you
yes.
have two or three, then it's still limited. It's still
Mhm.
limited. You cannot do jumping from one country to another as we do before,
Yes, yes.
especially in Europe. Some are free, some are not. So you're going to have a big problem. So this will
Right.
take time before the whole world will be pandemic free, virus
Mm.
free.
And then we
Before,
see
yeah,
and then we see airlines, Professor, na they're just half filled.
exactly.
So that's not sustainable at all. I'm
That's
based
not. That's
on.
not because there is restriction from the origin country and the destination country,
Mhm, mhm,
including quarantine in both countries. It's very tough. I don't think they can recover anytime soon.
mhm. Prof, still talking about the mutation of SMEs. the past few months, we've seen a significantly greater, I guess you can call it cooperation and collaboration between businesses. And this happens across industries. Now, while obviously this is very good for survival, the question is, do you see any perils or dangers if this kind of cooperation continues beyond the pandemic?
You know, when you're in crisis, there are no enemies. The only enemy is the virus. Right?
Mm.
So your competitor become your partners. Right? Because what will perish in this crisis are not just companies, but industries together with your competitors. So you have
Yes.
to cooperate with everyone, the government, your competitor, your supplier, your customers, your business partners. It's time to be together. Huh?
Mhm.
Not just fighting the virus, but fighting this economic crisis. And I think
Yes.
this should continue even in the post-pandemic world. The cooperation is productive.
Mhm.
You don't have to do cutthroat competition to make money. You can have friendly competition to make money. In fact,
Mhm.
both of you will make more money if the competition is friendlier rather
Yes.
than cutthroat. In cutthroat, it's a win-lose. Nobody wins in a cutthroat competition.
Right.
That's
And
what you're
sometimes you
referring.
even spend on marketing to try to destroy the competition. Yeah.
Exactly. What a waste, right? What a
Right.
waste.
So
What a
let's
waste.
talk about one of the major concerns of SMEs, employees. How do you train employees to adjust to what we can call, I guess, mutated conditions? How can a business sustain its employees when, say, for example, we see most businesses going online?
Well, processes, products, as well as employees' skill are all dependent on what innovative products are you going to sell, right?
Mhm.
Then you design the process, and then you hire the employees, then you decide the skills. Okay, so it depends on the product you will develop, which we talked about earlier. Then
Yes.
you let your employees acquire your skill. We call that upskilling or reskilling. Okay?
Mhm.
Okay. Also, your employees may have hidden talents that can be relevant in the new normal. Find these hidden talents. They
Mhm.
have many. Forget about job description at this point in time. Huh? Job description are not very useful
Mhm.
because they're based on the old normal paradigm, old
Mhm.
market. Huh? Be flexible in job description. A backroom personnel can become frontline, and frontline can be backroom. Okay,
Right.
a backroom person can be encouraged to sell. Why should he be in the back?
Mhm.
Let him do
Mhm.
some selling, some customer relationship.
Mhm.
This is how we use people as flexible assets.
Mhm. How about businesses like, for example, law firms? What happens to them and how they do business? Because a lot of the negotiation, a lot of the interaction happens face to face, in person.
Well, actually, you don't need face to face. Even in medicine,
Mm.
most consultation in hospital doesn't have to be face to face
Mhm.
because you send data. You know, same with especially lawyers. In lawyering, you don't need laboratory tests.
Right.
You don't need blood samples. All you need are information from the client, yeah,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
validation. Okay.
Mhm.
So what will make you trust Zoom like this is trust between the client and the lawyer. Okay?
Right.
There must be
Right.
trust. Then you can do online consultation. Okay?
Mhm.
I think it should be easier for law firm compared to healthcare. Okay?
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, you have to see your doctor to
Yes.
really see the close and personal. Okay?
To be
This is a
examined and
problem.
all that.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is a very big problem. It's very hard to go to see your doctor now because of threat of infection.
Mhm. Let's talk about, Prof, something that makes a lot of SMEs uncomfortable: cost and price. For example, how can SMEs cover the cost of safety given the limitations brought about by this pandemic? Are health considerations going to be temporary, or are these things that we're supposed to set in place for the long term? And because of that, should we consider increasing costs? And that's the uncomfortable question, because of health and safety protocols.
Okay, I don't like to use cost. Right?
Okay.
Cost is an accounting term. Right?
Okay.
Cost is either waste or value. Right? If it is necessary cost, it is value. If it is unnecessary cost, it's waste. You can remove that. Now,
Mhm.
talk about reliability and safety. That is a value-adding cost. It is not extra cost. It becomes part of cost of doing business or cost of goods sold.
Yes.
Okay, you can actually put it into your price, and customers will pay for it because
Okay.
they're not increasing your profit. They're paying for the extra value that you're putting into your product.
Yes.
This is not a price hike. Okay, this is actually enhancing the value of the product. And to many customers, this may be good value for money.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you can recover this so-called cost.
Do you make it transparent to the customer that you are adding on to this cost for the sake of safety and
Yes,
health?
yes, but don't overprice. You
Okay.
try to be efficient in doing this. Huh? You try to enhance safety with a minimum cost.
Right.
Okay,
And 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 the question of quality versus pricing shouldn't be an issue anymore if you're
not
talking
an
about.
issue. People
Okay.
will pay for protection,
Okay.
and to them, that's not a price hike. That's a needed protection.
Okay. We have a question from Kat Kwasay Zaragoza, the sister of Kai. Good afternoon, Prof. What is your forecast on the fashion industry, both manufacturing and retail?
Well, fashion is like again will be affected because people don't go out. People will be less brand conscious, right? Very functional.
Mhm.
So try to go into fashion that is functional, convenient to wear. Okay?
Mm.
So easy to wash. You know,
Right.
washing
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
very important because you have to remove all these viruses that will stuck to your clothes. So you have to be more techy when designing fashion. Okay, not just looks.
Right. And washing has become more expensive because before you would wear a pair of jeans 2, 3, 4, 5 days straight. Now, the moment you get home, you have to wash it
Exactly. So
immediately.
what's the impact? They have to mutate. They have to pivot, right? Because
Right.
this was not in the mindset of those fashion designers.
Mhm.
Functionality. We call it
Mhm.
functionality.
Now, connected to that is a question from Nikki Jimenez. How do you introduce new solutions to convince early adopters?
Well, you don't have to convince Pao if the value is compelling. Okay,
Compelling
you
value.
don't have to sell something that is useful. It will sell itself. Okay, so
Mm.
you try to know the market. Okay, find their pain points, develop the product, and these things will sell. You don't have to convince them. Okay?
Mm.
Just inform them. They will buy. Okay, they will.
Mm.
Okay?
Mm.
There's a need. You don't need marketing. You don't need promotion. Okay, all they need is information that this thing is available.
Mm.
Okay?
One of the hardest hit industries would be the events industry, trade exhibitions, for example. Do you see them remaining relevant in the future? Do you see it as an industry that really has to totally pivot or mutate to be able to survive?
Maybe to answer that, I may have to digress a little bit from events. Okay,
Okay.
what do you have in events? A trade show. You want to see the product, talk to the maker, right? Normally, trade shows are selling products. Okay, but this
Mm-hmm.
can be done online. You don't have to rub elbows with other exhibitors and other guests to learn about this. So if
Right.
the objective of the exhibition is just exchange of information, that can easily be replaced with online exchange with 3D rendering of the product. Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So this will be affected. They have to pivot. They have to pivot. Okay,
Mhm.
less people, and these people who go to exhibition are actually travelers. Now you have another
Yes.
problem. Huh?
Yes. Yes.
Okay?
That's
That's
true.
the bigger
Yeah.
problem. They will not travel. Huh?
Yeah.
They will not travel. It's not the event. It's not the exhibit. It's the traveling. That will be the first bottleneck to hurdle.
Yes.
Okay?
And for businesses, for example, restaurants, right? Some of the restaurant owners I know have invested heavily in all of these safety protocol related equipment. And they're wondering, okay, did I spend too much on something that I won't be using in the future? Um, did I spend too much on something that will become not just obsolete but useless in in my restaurant?
Well, this is relative to time, right? If you think this thing will be over in 6 months, then you have overinvested. But if you think this is going to be 4 to 6 years, then you will have your payback. Okay? So if an
Yes.
investment will have 5 years payback, then go, right? That is safe, okay? That is safe. You can recover the investment. And I bet you this is not going to be a 6-month crisis.
Right. So going back to what we were talking about earlier, many businesses, in fact, the DTI said about 26% of businesses have either closed down permanently or temporarily. Is there anything that you can say, Prof, to, and I want to be careful about this, encourage SMEs, entrepreneurs, business owners to hang on, to not close down, to fight it out?
Well, fight it out with a different weapon. Huh? Not fight it out with the pre-pandemic model. He cannot cope with this. Huh? You fight it out, stay, okay? Get enough cash to burn as you innovate. Huh? But not as to operate the same old way. You cannot do that. You have to innovate. What you need is extra time to innovate. That's the meaning of fight it out. Huh? Not trying to sell what you were selling before. So they need precious time. That's why bailout, to me, should be bailout or dole out to develop new products, not to operate the same old way and pay employees to do the same old thing, which will not last long. That's wasting cash. That's really burning cash.
Right.
With no result. With no result.
Because the short-term and slightly knee-jerk reaction of a lot of entrepreneurs would be, okay, so let's look at our fixed costs, let's lower our fixed costs.
Yeah, exactly. But what fixed costs? Why are you paying for this fixed cost? Maybe there are already sunk costs because what these machines are doing are already irrelevant products. Why will you keep financing this? Okay, invest in new technology, but that will be relevant in the new normal. Then that's the better overhead. That's the better fixed cost that you should seek financial assistance for.
So, Prof, we have time for a couple more questions.
Sure.
But I want to have enough time for this particular answer because this is most probably on the minds of everyone listening right now. How do we craft a vision in what is considered an uncertain future?
This pandemic is an example of a VUCA environment. Volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. So this is my take on this thing. Mission vision. You can drop this for a while. It's like job description. You're fixated on something. Okay? You cannot continue with your mission vision because that's a wish. The environment is a moving target, so dynamic. You cannot say, I want to be the best car maker in the world. I want to be the best restaurant. You cannot do that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not trying to be number one, number two. It's trying to survive. Okay. So you have to restate your vision mission so that it becomes dynamic. It becomes flexible. If you say opportunistic, so to speak, opportunistic. You pivot from what you have and to exploit opportunities. You're not coming from a blank sheet, from zero base. That's their vision. How do you pivot? I think visioning should be about pivoting. Okay. We are adaptive. We are an agile company. We adapt. That's the better generic vision for everyone. Not to be, I want to be number two, number one. I want to get 30% market share. All this motherhood that, really don't mean a thing.
Right.
And cannot materialize in these uncertain times.
Right. They sounded great before the pandemic, but then they don't really mean anything now.
They don't mean anything.
Motherhood kind of statements that we have for our mission and vision.
Yeah.
So it's really, is it in a way going back to basics and fundamentals?
Yeah. Everybody is like a startup entrepreneur. Even big companies. You have to think with a beginner's mind. I'm a beginner. How do we start from scratch? This is a new market. This is a new economy. How do I start this business? All I have is myself, my ideas.
And the encouraging thing about that is the playing field has been sort of leveled, if you think about it.
Exactly. Big companies also fall down.
And therein lies the opportunity.
Exactly.
If people are keen to find that opportunity.
Yeah, it's like post-war. I said after the war, literally it's a level playing field because all cities are leveled, right?
Yes.
All businesses are leveled. So everybody starts from even the rich becomes poor after the war. Huh? They don't have anything. Yeah? You start from scratch. Huh? So this is opportunity for SME to rise and shine.
What about our largest, or one of our largest resources, our overseas Filipino workers, for example? Do you see international recruitment dipping, or struggling to survive?
I think there is a bright side to that, in spite of the health issue, because OFW means people traveling. Huh? They're also travelers, so they're subject to this strict protocol. Okay, but there's a bright side. Foreign countries need our workers because they don't have workers. They have no choice. They cannot run their own economy without our OFW. Right? Without our nurses, without our construction people, our seafarers. Right? They need our people. Okay? So they will find a way to get our Filipinos back abroad. This is my take, because it's a necessity. It's an essential. OFW for them, outsourcing to them is not a luxury. It's a necessity to run their economy. Who will run the hotels in the world? Who will run the shipping line? Who will cook for everyone? Who will sing? These are all Filipinos. Who will run the hospitals of the world?
Yes.
Every hospital in the world have Filipino nurses. They need us. So this is going to be temporary. We're going to send them back.
Right. Safely.
Safely, of course.
Yes.
So before tourists, OFW will be returning.
As priorities. They're more of a priority.
Because they add value. Tourists, they don't know, they just spend. Right? They don't remit anything.
So we have a question from Engelbert Pasag. How about universities or schools? Do they need to pivot? We've seen the past few weeks, some schools have already expressed their intention to close down. They've told the DepEd, okay, we can't survive during this situation. Do they have to also pivot, or is it a wait and see kind of situation?
No, wait and see. That's a bad attitude. Wait and see is being optimistic, right? You always think a vaccine will be discovered. No, it won't be discovered. Right? We cannot have these in-person classes anytime soon. So they have to shift to online. Okay, but to minimize the damage, I think, is they have to be selective on subjects to reduce the social contact, the exposure. All subjects that are knowledge-based, that is done online. All subjects that are skills-based, then you do face-to-face. So you can be selective. Okay? You can be selective. This is the new school. This is the school of the new normal.
Yes.
Some subjects are mandatory online. Some subjects are mandatory face-to-face. Now you just decide which one. This is to minimize the social contact. If you want to reduce the risk of infection.
Right. And we have one last question. This one is basically asking, how about, because we mentioned a while ago, Prof, that so many cottage industries have grown from this pandemic. Now, we have people who lost their jobs. They're now cooking a lot of sushi bake and they're selling it online. Do you see this kind of industry growing, or is it more of quote unquote fad? Is it still going to be a survival of the fittest when it comes to that kind of business model?
I think this is a good development. I'm not saying the pandemic is good, but it turned out that the pandemic discovered a hidden talent of many Filipinos, that we can all become entrepreneurs suddenly overnight.
Agreed.
And this is what schools should be teaching. Instead of teaching them how to be employees, we should be teaching them how to be entrepreneurs. And the pandemic did that, not the education system. So I think this should continue. Make Filipinos think like entrepreneurs. Not only as a fallback career, but as a way of life. Earn for yourself. Don't depend on companies, because the companies can come and go. Okay, but if you have talent, then that's your asset. Not your job, because jobs, you don't control your jobs. You cannot control your job. Once a business closes, you have no recourse.
Yes.
You cannot
Yes.
run after your boss and say, "Give me back my job." But as an entrepreneur, then we have talent. It's good to learn that many of these so-called jobless suddenly discover their talent of cooking,
Right.
selling, and marketing. It's very good development.
Mhm.
Okay? I think this should continue beyond the crisis.
Right. And hopefully it becomes a full-blown business for them, right? Not just something that is from the home. They actually become SMEs because of this.
Yeah. Just like in America, most businesses there, many Americans are SMEs, started as SMEs. Right? Many businesses there, because they have this entrepreneurial spirit that we don't have, right? We don't have. We're a country of employees, huh? Because that's our education system teaches us to graduate and find a job. Okay. Now there are no more jobs. What do you do? Okay.
So, Prof, just a couple more questions. There are some who are sending their questions on Facebook. Edmund Lee, he runs a small commercial building. Some tenants have pre-terminated. What to do when the existing tenants ask for concessions or discounts?
Well, I think this is related to your question earlier about competition partners. Okay. In this crisis, as they say, you're all in this together. You look at partnership. It has to be win-win. Okay, you need these people back. So you have to give and take. Okay, you don't go legal about this, because legal is always win-lose. Somebody has to lose. Okay, so find a way to help them. If their tenants are having problem with their business, this is a paradigm shift, Paulo. Why can't the landlord help the tenants in their business rather than just collect rent? Okay,
right.
This is partnership. Let me help you run your business to let you prosper so you can pay my rent. This is the better way rather than I'll run after you, throw you out, find a lawyer to kick you out. This is the win-lose attitude. Okay?
Right, because you get stressed out, you won't be able to work properly or find the
engage
funds.
Your tenants, engage your clients, see what problem they're having, because their problem becomes your problem eventually. Right?
All right. And the other question is pretty much related. How about real estate business, condo rental business? Is that the same answer you would give, Prof?
It's the same. Condo can be repurposed, right? You can repurpose that to many things: offices, health, fitness facilities. Right? Reimagine this real estate. Right? Don't think I'm in the condo business or I'm in the Think of the use of the asset that you. What are your core strengths there? How do you pivot from that? How do you pivot? In fact, many hotels now are being converted to quarantine areas because it's so natural to do that. It's so natural.
So basically, the word is repurpose and reimagine.
Reimagine. Okay. That's the mutation we're talking about.
Yes.
That's the mutation.
And with that, Prof, we've run out of time, and we've had all the questions answered so graciously by you. Thank you so much, Prof, for sharing your ideas, your answers, enlightening us this afternoon. It was really jam-packed, and I was actually worried we won't be able to get all the questions out.
Thank you too, Paolo.
We got all of the questions out, and to those watching, if you came in a bit late, we will be posting this on our Facebook page, Rise PH. So just stand by, and you can watch the entire episode from end to end. For sure, there's so much to unpack in this particular webinar. So at this point, as we thank Professor Rene Domingo, I'd like to bring in our co-founder in Rise, Professor Maya, to give us a recap of everything that's happened today. Prof?
Thank you, Paulo. Okay. I really like, because this is one of the things we always say in AIM, and we particularly teach in the MA program, that we started off by saying that business is really about creating value. Okay? And one of the things we always say, though, is that value is defined by the customer. You can't decide for the customer what value is. And one of the things that the pandemic has shown us is obviously as the circumstances change, what the customer values changes. And one of the things that we know has been created in the customer and in a lot of us, virtually all of us at this point by the pandemic, is there are three things. Fear, caution because of the fear, and third, as Rene pointed out, there is some frustration with the circumstance. It's not easy to stay home and when you go out, wear masks, etc. So what are the things that the customer is looking for? Safety has become a paramount value. Availability, because of the lockdown, is now intrinsic to everything that we need to provide to the customer. And affordability, not because money has disappeared, but because people are more cautious with the money. But on the other side, there is also pent-up demand. I mean, malls were closed for a long time. I was speaking with a few people who are actually selling in department stores, and their sales are back to pre-pandemic levels. So currently, there are still people with money. And as I always tell people, nobody went out to burn money. The money is still there. As Professor Domingo pointed out, our job is to figure out where the money went and what people are willing to spend the money on. So it's really still about finding where the opportunities are, where the markets are, what they're looking for. You really need to figure out what they want. And I love that Rene said, why in the world wait for a crisis to pivot? Okay. And because you asked, how should we change as a result of this crisis? I think one of the things Professor Domingo is espousing is that while we want to pivot during this crisis, one of the things we need to learn from this crisis is we must continue to be innovative. We cannot wait for something to happen in order for us to adjust. We must continue to look for hidden opportunities, look for our hidden resources. He said, maybe there's a talent in your employees you're not finding. Leverage what you have more than at any time in our past. As a time for entrepreneurs, not to just think about buying new things, but to look at hidden opportunities and look at the resources you already have and leverage them. And I like, because this is a collaboration, that we did talk about the fact that it is time for co-opetition. It is time for cooperating with competition. This is time to collaborate because after all, the pandemic is affecting everyone. This is a global crisis. And the other thing that we need to remember is there is no way for us to create a new service or create a new product absent changing our actual enterprise. So that means we need to, as Professor Domingo said, it's not just about creating a new product or a service. It's truly about reshaping your enterprise, changing your processes, in certain instances, retooling your employees. You also talked about what we need to do. What is strategy under uncertainty like? Now, one of the things we teach in strategy class is, in order to decide what kind of strategy you want to have, you need to figure out two things. How predictable is the future in your industry, and how controllable is it? If you decide, and it seems a lot of people have decided that it's neither predictable nor controllable, then your strategy is going to have to be adaptive. You have to be flexible, you have to be adaptive. However, even if you're adaptive, that doesn't mean you stop building competitive advantage. You still need to always ask yourself what it is you are building that will make you better in some things than others, because that is, after all, what business is all about. At the end of the day, I really want to remind you that there have been winners in this pandemic. And there are clearly areas where it is obvious. You can actually, I tell you, there are industries where you don't have to be adaptive. There are industries where you can be visionary. There are industries right now where we can be shapers. You know why? The industries that have gained the most in this pandemic are the industries in tech. And if you look at the share prices, you will know who they are. One of the things the crisis has done is it has accelerated technology. It has accelerated the need for better logistics, last mile logistics, e-commerce. In those industries, you can almost be a visionary and you can be a shaper. And I think the final thing that I love, and where I think we ended up, is when you talked about communities. This is one of the things that there are very clear, I think, threads that we expect to last beyond the epidemic. One is people are more interested in health. The other thing is that people have now become more community aware because we have had to be, right? We can't go outside of our communities. We are now community aware. There are now entire communities communities that know each other, that know that, oh my God, my neighbor sells eggs. They actually have a farm. My other
Yeah.
neighbor actually has an orchard. I think those communities are going to remain.
Mm.
Companies that figure out how to take advantage of that are going to be winners in the future. And the last thing I think that I probably want to end with, because that is such a great message from Rene, is that I hope one of the things the Philippines takes from this is that we want to create the entrepreneurial attitude in all Filipinos. We
Mm.
do not want to have a nation of employees.
Yes.
So I think that's a great way to end today. Thank you, Rene, and thank you, Paolo.
Thank you, Prof. Maya, so much for wrapping up this really meaty session with Professor Renetti Domingo. Professor Domingo, thank you so much for your gracious
Thank you too,
answering
Paolo.
all of our questions. It was very, very enlightening, and I would like to remind everyone watching, please do watch the episode when we replay it on our Facebook page. It's just going to be there. So share it with your friends who are in business or who want to get into business as well, so they can understand this environment even more. Now, for now, let's tune in as we play a short video to remind you exactly what this promising partnership between Rise PH and AIMME is all about. Please watch this.
Learn from the best and be inspired by leading experts. This academic webinar series is brought to you by the partnership of Rise PH and AIMME. Let's share insights and ideas. Rise is an organization that aims to grow as a strong platform for entrepreneurs. We recover quickly from difficult situations, introduce innovative ideas, and come up with relevant solutions. We are a group of entrepreneurs who drive mutually beneficial relationships within our network. Our mission is to discover sustainable and executable strategies to rise, survive, and thrive. Want to expand your network? Develop business strategies for the current crisis. Collaborate and build partnerships. Need a support group to fine-tune your business? Get it all here with Rise. Join us and simply participate in all the activities we have lined up for you. Rise conducts forums, talks, workshops, and seminars every week to explore opportunities. Our main objective is to help our member entrepreneurs strategically pivot their businesses during this pandemic and beyond. What are you waiting for? Become a member today. Apply now and let's take your business to new heights.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you all learned a lot from this truly promising session. We look forward to seeing you transform your businesses as we navigate this new business landscape together. Now, if you have any more questions about our organization, Rise, you're interested to learn more about what we can do for your business, simply type it down in the chat box so our Rise founders can entertain you right away. Just a quick shout out to our Rise members, of course, Professor Maya, Kai, we have Nikki, Ruel, Coach Reza, Jai, China, Arlene, Eileen. We have Jen watching as well. We have Jill and Joseph. And who else do we have? Of course, JJ and Alj. So thank you all for your support. And to all those watching, once again, we'd like to remind you, such a packed episode, this webinar. You have so much to learn from. So please do watch it when we post it. All right. So this has been Resize, Reshape, or Retire, the mutation of SMEs during a pandemic. We hope to see you again in our upcoming academic webinar forums. Thank you so much for attending and spending your wonderful Saturday with all of us, and for staying with us rather until the end. So stay connected with us. Please like our Facebook page to get updates on all of our upcoming activities. Thank you once again all for coming. Have a great day. Once again, this is Paulo Bejones saying stay safe, stay protected, and stay healthy.